Joining me right now, Ron Ness, president of the North Dakota Petroleum Council. Ron, welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Hey, good morning, Rob. It's another beautiful day in North Dakota.
Glad to hear it, and it sure is. And but according to the New York Times, I'm reading this. We're burning off too much natural gas, and there are concerns about our air quality in North Dakota because we're burning off all this natural gas. What can you tell us about this?
Well, the New York Times reporter was out here, and we had spent a fair amount of time with him prior to his visit, and explaining that the Bakken is an oil field, and it's the largest oil field that anybody's really ever tried to develop because it's about 15,000 square miles in North Dakota and Montana. So, getting infrastructure from one side to the other side when you're virtually in areas that have never had significant oil and gas production before at all, if any, is a tremendous challenge. And I was thinking about this, and to put it in a farmer's perspective, that would be like having a cornfield, and in that cornfield, 1 out of every 15 rows is a sunflower row. So when you go to harvest your corn, if the sunflowers aren't quite ripe yet, are you going to harvest the corn? Yeah, you're going to harvest the corn because you've given up 1 out of every 15 rows of sunflowers. And we are investing $3 billion into natural gas infrastructure in North Dakota. That's $3 billion. And so obviously, yeah, there's a lot of flaring going on. That's because the play keeps expanding. But the infrastructure is on the way. This rich Bakken natural gas has value. Nobody wants to see it flared. But it's a, if you think of it in terms of a barrel of oil, it's $80 barrel of oil and about $4 to $6 worth of gas. So, in order for the play to grow, you've got to produce the oil.
Yeah, and I think that's something. I mean, first of all, one of the biggest challenges is just having the infrastructure to get the oil out of the Bakken. I mean, that's been a challenge that the oil companies have had to face, and they're looking at things. Obviously, there's hope for the Keystone Pipeline might alleviate some of that situation if it ever gets built. Rail and trucks and things like that. So natural gas is unfortunately taking a back burner. And another way to think of this is it's not like the oil companies want to just burn off this natural gas. I mean, it's a valuable commodity too. And last time I checked, oil and gas companies weren't adverse to selling products and making a profit. So if there's a way to get this natural gas out of there, they're going to find it and they're going to do it, right?
Absolutely, and that $3 billion of investment that's on the way. In addition, the state of North Dakota, through the Oil and Gas Research Council, which I'm part of, we have invested almost $2 million into temporary type capture technologies that capture that flared gas and put it on the electrical grid. We got another project that's going to looking at ways to capture that gas and use it as natural gas fuel to drive the rig. So it's not like we aren't doing anything. The biggest complication, though, coming from people that understand gas fields, think that you're flaring, large percentages of the volumes of the gas, when in reality it's an oil field, and we're flaring the associated gas, or again that 1 row out of every 15 rows of corn, and that one row that we can't capture right now.
Let me read you a quote out of this article because I thought this was a little over the top. It says, I quote, "North Dakota is not as bad as Kazakhstan, but this is not what you would expect a civilized, efficient society to do, to flare off a perfectly good product just because it's expensive to bring to market," said Michael E. Weber, Associate Director for the Center of International Energy and Environmental Policy at the University of Texas, Austin. What he's saying is, well, they're wasting this perfectly good product, but what you're saying is, well, we don't have a way, we have another perfectly good product that we need to get out of the ground. That's oil. We need the oil. We want the oil. There's a market for the oil. But right now there's not a way to get natural gas to market, so we're working on it, right?
Yeah, and we're capturing a lot of the gas. It's just the new wells and new areas come online, and how do you build the infrastructure when you don't know how much gas there's going to be? So you also have to right size the infrastructure. So you have to produce it to understand the volumes to attract the investment, and also the dollars that you get for the oil, of course, help pay for the infrastructure.
The other point that they made, aside from the waste issue, saying, oh, we're wasting all this natural gas. The other concern expressed in the article is air quality, saying that by flaring all of this, we're ruining the air quality in North Dakota. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't think EPA hasn't ruled that way, and certainly if EPA hasn't ruled that way, I think we're just fine. So. Again, it's a volume. If you look at it a volume to a volume base, it's a very low volume in terms of the big picture. So it's certainly something that we think, the investment, and you're going to want to capture that. Everybody wants to capture that. The producer, the mineral owner, everybody. So it's going to happen, but it's typically part of the process anywhere.
Do you feel, because there's obviously, there's a certain political movement, I think, out there that is against developing these sorts of resources. They don't want them. They feel, the fracking has been, something that they've been getting, I think, a little hysterical about. And now we have this coming up. Do you think this is just part of another, just gotcha moment for these, this political movement, I guess, that's opposed to oil and gas development?
Well, I think, Rob, you can make a long list of those, including the Keystone Pipeline hearings that were being held across the corridor for the Keystone Pipeline. That pipeline is going to take friendly Canadian oil to the Gulf of Mexico to displace oil from Venezuela, oil from OPEC, and oil from other places. There's never been a safer, more efficient way to move oil and gas or other commodities than a pipeline. And we are seeing an uproar against that solely because they don't want the Canadian oil.
Because they don't want the oil. They don't like the oil. They don't want to hear. Ron, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Got to go to a break. I'm Rob Port, sitting in for Scott Hennon. Don't go away.